Hey guys, I just wanted to show you how the material system works in the editor, and it's all based on these FX files with shader code and XML in them. So the XML allows you to include files, create structures, create global variables, and the global variables are what will be interfacing with the editor for the material instances that use this particular material. And a material instance is basically just a set of parameters for these global variables. Constant parameters, if you modify those in the editor, they'll generate new shader code, which will generate a new shader variant, which will need to be linked up to, which gets linked up with the object that you're rendering at runtime. So yeah, like obviously changing it allows you to do certain things, like enable alpha testing would generate new shader code, but the discard threshold doesn't. So you can change certain variables without generating new sets of shader code, and certain variables which do generate new sets of shader code. And then you set up your parsers and whatnot, which get used by the rendering pipeline. And it's all just basic shader code. Like you can see, this is the simple PBR material. And then he has the sampler, which sets up your texture map 1D, 2D, 2D array, 3D texture cube map, and the layer info structure, which we're actually using inside here. So you can see there our global material parameters is of this structure, which is 3 texture maps and the layer info. Diffuse map, normal map, specular map, and the layer info. Layer info is just tiling in the UV set to use for that particular layer. And then your sampler, which uses all the different data types, but it compiles away to nothing depending on which data type you're using, and it samples them for you and whatnot, and that's used inside the actual material when you want to sample certain things. So that's how you write materials, and then in the editor this would be a material instance, and you can see here our global variables that we set up earlier, and here are material parameters which have those 3 texture maps and the layer info. And at the moment a diffuse map is using like a very basic thing, whereas the normal map is just using the default blue, very small blue texture map, and specular map is just using a white. And you can set the tint here. So the tint allows you to change the amount of reflectance and the sort of glossiness of the material with that very basic texture. So you can see that's reflecting our IBL there. So yeah, that's basically it for the material system. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. It uses a lot of code generation with Ginger code templates, or templates to generate code that then gets compiled by the graphics driver. So all these structures and variables go through the code generator, which pulls out data from the XML and generates code for these structures, so that can then be used within the shader code that you write. Yeah, that's about it for the material system.